Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome. I believe today is Monday, August 5th, 2024. We're here for a morning work session with our support services folks, human resources regarding 2024 employment trends. My name is John Kafalis, Commissioner from District 1, joined by my Commissioner colleagues, Kristen Stevens from District 2, and Jody Sheddock McNally from District 3. We have our County Manager, Lorenda Volker. Before we turn it over to our presenters, I'd like to check in with Lorenda if you wish to cue things up or offer any opening comments.
I think I'll just say this is a rescheduled work session from a couple of weeks ago. We had an illness, and so we're feeling better now. I say the royal we. Bridget is feeling better now. She wanted to come talk to you a bit about some of the work that's happening in HR, just so you have an idea of what is happening in that department and in support services in general. So, Mark, are you going to start, or is it going to move on to Bridget?
Yes, I'll start. Thanks, Mark Pfaffenscher. I'm Support Services Director and CIO for Larimer County. We have some periodic work sessions to bring up topics around support services, which are the foundational services that support the rest of the county business that ultimately benefits our residents in Larimer County. So, as you know, our workforce is a really important aspect of our success. It's our people that really equate to the capabilities and the services that we deliver to the public. So, this will be hopefully a fairly fun and a little bit interactive conversation. Mostly Bridget's going to walk us through some trends she's seeing in the area of employment and our workforce. These are things we should be aware of, and we want to kind of keep you abreast of some of the things we're sort of seeing that, one, either there's concerns from our staff, there's concerns from our managers, or the general world in general. We're seeing things that we want just you to be more aware of so we can be informed employers and not to be caught off guard to some of the trends we're seeing, that we can adapt and adjust our approaches to dealing with some of these. So I'll hand it over to Bridget, who's got a lot of data. We're hopefully not going to read everything on these slides, but we'll generally touch on things. But if you do have, we only have an hour, obviously, today, so if there are follow-up areas you want us to go a little deeper into, we can obviously schedule that for some other day or follow up with additional data.
Thank you, Mark. Okay. Welcome, Bridget.
Great, thank you. I'm Bridget Paris. I'm the HR Director, and I'm going to talk today about employment trends. And employment trends are patterns and changes in the labor market that affect kind of the nature, availability, types of jobs, things that influence those employment trends are technology advancements, economic conditions, demographic shifts, societal changes, policy developments. So these trends ebb and flow. And I thought I would take a little bit of a different approach and share maybe less about what HR's doing, where I just come and tell you what we do here in HR, but talk about the trends that we keep an eye on and what's happening right now, and then what we are doing that we already do or are planning to do in response to those trends. Obviously, HR performs a lot of services, so we'll just touch on the ones that align with these trends, and hopefully that'll give you some insight on kind of like hot topics that are happening in the workforce. And HR has a small influence on these. A lot of times these trends impact departments and offices. You'll probably hear feedback from them that when they're experiencing these different trends. So I'll move across them pretty quickly. If there are any that are exciting to you, or if there are any pieces that HR is doing or looking at that you'd like more information, just go ahead and stop us. It's not 100% critical that we get through all the trends because there's a lot here. We're going to look at managing change, digital transformation, economic and policy influences, AI-enabled tools. I'm not sure you can get through an entire work session or week without AI. Hybrid flexibility, mental health for employees, non-traditional candidates, and managerial skills. So, couple things about how HR plans and watches these trends. We call it workforce analytics, and we combine multiple data sets that we're able to get at the county and utilize it visually for our leaders in a tool called Tableau. That might pop up a little bit later in terms of the AI tools. Tableau allows us to then give our leaders opportunities to look at their workforce and the metrics in ways that align with what they're hoping to look at. From separations to retirements to hires to more complex metrics in pay and equity and pretty much anything across the board, we've been able to build those metrics and put them together for staff. We do annual HR action plans and measures. I ask each of my teams to sit down and kind of plan out their next 3 to 5 years, depending on the area, in what we call tactical action items. And in those different areas, it might be compliance, it might be customer service, it might be whatever area fits along with kind of their service delivery method. And then they identify key action items that they're going to accomplish over the next few years. That helps us stay on track, look ahead, and most importantly for me, make sure we can allocate resources appropriately, both staff, time, and deliverables around those actions. Each of those areas also put together their individual measures. So they're going to be tracking measures unique to their processes, to their services, because we're down a couple layers that help them watch and see any trends or anything that might shift or change their tactical planning for their items. They also do strategic plans. This is a new area for us where I ask each group to do 1, 2, 3 objectives, and each of those objectives have tasks and activities. It's reasonably modeled off of the county's strategic plan. We just take it down a level, and we're able to apply that to employee relations, to benefits, or to payroll. That keeps them targeted on their goals so that we know how we're doing and making progress. We also have 2 additional little objective goal activities kind of game for the Inclusion Advisory Committee. So that one is out on the website, so you can look at that one and see it. They have, I think they're at 4 objectives. I can't remember, so they have a few more. And I also do it for internal communication. So we keep those on track. It keeps us moving along and working to hit goals. A lot of the items that we work on will make their way into these objectives or activities or are on our HR action plan. So managing change. This is an employment trend that really stands out for us because it comes with critical skills that you need to be able to manage change, and understanding what's necessary to manage change helps us decide what we can deliver to our employees in terms of assisting with that skill development. We're moving and shaking really fast. A lot of things are happening at the county. So when we think about the skills that are needed for change management and how HR contributes to that, we've established internal communications. Jen Glover does that for part of her job. She's taken on inside information, worked with leadership on video messaging, other strategies, has done some announcement channels. So we've taken a portion of her job focusing higher level on communication. Here in September, we'll be rolling out Open Voice. Open Voice is a consolidated, we call it a reporting tool, but it's an opportunity for employees to give feedback. They can report any opportunities they see, concerns. We'll roll what's up and ask HR into that tool, and it'll also include opportunities to share concerns in all our areas: privacy, fraud, theft, discrimination, harassment. Our goal in rolling that out is making consistent reporting for all employees. You don't have to go onto the HIPAA page or the HIPAA policy and figure out where to report a privacy concern. You don't have to get into risk site to find out who to call because there's a safety issue. We're consolidating all of it into one place.
Got it.
Yeah.
One important aspect of that tool, as you're probably aware, is it brokers a anonymous conversation between the employee and the leadership of Larimer County. So if you're reporting something you're uncomfortable about, you want to remain anonymous in your anonymity in terms of the communication. We have this third-party broker that's ensuring that that communication will remain private. Obviously, in some situations, we want to encourage employees to provide their information, but that we can have that conversation to assure them that their information is protected before we hopefully get to the point where we can have that one-on-one conversation if it's something we're really concerned about. But so we're pretty excited about this tool. I know Lorenda's probably spoken to you about it already, but it's in the works.
Do you have a question? I have one.
This is exciting, kind of feeling employees feel like they have a voice, but also just knowing the nature of our jobs, there's always due process and asking questions and kind of making sure what's there. So I'm curious about, does this allow for that kind of due process and asking questions and looking into?
Yeah, actually, when Mark mentioned the anonymous one, that actually gives us a little more opportunity to ask questions, because when we would get an anonymous report right now, that's all we get.
Right.
And so you can use this tool to try and engage and ask other questions. The other neat part that I like about the tool is you can engage multiple people that are allowed to review on the tool that help get the full picture. So you don't have to have a meeting, you don't have to get a bunch of people together. Let's say there's I'm going to use a positive one. Somebody's given us an opportunity, something that, hey, if you would go look at this, I think we could do A, B, and C. I can grab Lori and say, Lori, would you take a look at this request? At the same time, I'm getting Lorenda's comments on the request and Mark's. So we'll be able to add everybody in, ask questions, and engage, which will allow us to then respond to the review or the reporter in full picture. So I think it's also going to help us track, right? We'll be able to track under category a lot easier, maybe do some preventive type outreach if we're seeing patterns in certain areas. So I'm pretty excited to give employees that additional opportunity.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner, thank you. I have a question. I'm wondering if this open voice resource is available to employees who are maybe providing county services but are not directly county employees. What recourse do they have if they have concerns or want
Yeah.
to report something?
So this tool, because we're not collecting or integrating it into our county system, it is actually a live link that we can give to anyone. Because we are not integrated, we don't know who is going to be reporting, so we can't have it within our system. So it's an external tool, so if we have the opportunity, we can share it. It's actually going to be out on the HR webpage. We did go through and explore. We may get comments from candidates, from the public, and we are set up to be able to handle those if they come through. No different than if they came through on an email.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think our hope is to integrate our current practices first, get those set up and make sure it's working well, and then consider it for alternative uses as we get better at using this tool. Because there are some nuances to using a new tool. We want to understand it fully before we open it up to maybe a new demographic of
So when will
workers.
we be ready to make this tool available to other employees, and how will they know that it exists and how they might?
So we're in the final setup phases of the tool. So I think over the next few months, you'll be hearing information and training during its rollout. I don't know if we have an official go-live date yet, but we're working on that.
Yeah, I think it's September 13th. That might be that Monday. I don't have my calendar open.
Very soon.
I think if I had a better idea of the not employees you're thinking of, are you thinking like maybe of extension
For board.
or
members.
boards and commissions or?
We can have that conversation offline.
Yeah, Again, it's available online.
The great thing about this tool, and one of the things we liked about it being available online and not hooked into our payroll system, is sometimes employees are not comfortable using their work email or work system. They want to go home and do it from home. And what they've done in the past is they've invented a new email address that doesn't really connect them to anything. So that's not as helpful as this, although we can talk back and forth with the person if they continue to keep that email address open. This allows that anonymity and this back and forth. If they have a safety issue at a facility, but they don't name the facility, we don't know where to start. And so asking questions, we don't necessarily need to know who they are, only what building are you talking about and what is the concern and how might we engage our security team to be able to address that. So we'll learn. I'm sure it won't be as perfect as we hope it will be, but I think it will be a lot better than the 20-something different ways to ask questions today. If it works well and we get really good at it, it could be a really good community feedback tool. And that we'll have to talk about how we manage that piece as well and who gets those emails. But we get a lot of those BOCC at Larimer.org emails that might be better served coming in through something like this. Then we can track, are we getting the same kind of questions? Are we having the same kind of complaints? Are they, what are the issues we're seeing? Because you can see trends in this tool. And we'll learn more.
Thank you. Thank you, Lorinda, and thank you for responding to my questions. I would like to touch base if we have time afterwards. But yes, Commissioner Shattuck, please.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. I see a lot of pros with this. I'm curious, this could open floodgates for a lot of communication, and I'm still trying to unbury myself from the last week. So I'm curious what kind of staff capacity this might take, and folks who are responding to a lot of questions can maybe field a lot of negative comments, and that can be kind of not fun sometimes. So I'm curious how that person will get some opportunities to do something positive. I mean, I'm just curious, is a shared capacity, what does this look like?
Yeah, as part of our change management rollout of this, there is a piece that looks at volume and workload. And I think as reviewers, each of us get a category. We're called reviewers, right? And so finance will have somebody who's responsible for the financial items, and risk will have, right? So it is divided. And so I think until we get our feet under us a little bit, we're not sure of what the volume increase will be, but there are multiple people on all the items that allow for that shared, where right now sometimes it's just, hey, can you grab that one? So I think we'll watch volume, and it is part of our change management strategy, even with the reviewers, to keep an eye on that workload.
Just to add, I think we will integrate some training to employees and expectation that these are civil tools where we don't just respond to negative, difficult to deal with criticisms and things. They need to have some substance to them. This is we're trying to build a culture of well thought out communication between us and the workforce and those that are reporting. And so we're not going to change our approach in this tool. I think we're going to maintain those standards going forward. And I think that's important to do in order to make sure the tool's effective.
Thank you. Just mindful of the time.
Yep. We'll keep rolling.
Like to end so that we have at least 3 minutes to transition to our 11 o'clock
Meeting.
meeting.
Perfect.
Please. Thank you.
Yep. Well-being and support goes into management and change, resilience, stress management. We have our critical characteristics that came out of the last strategic plan. One of those is adaptability. We tie training and performance management to those characteristics, including recognition, like Nectar. Nectar is on there in terms of that cultural piece and rewarding the behavior that we're hoping for. We can use those tools to encourage and support and bring to light change management. And we use IT's change managers for our software. We just talked about that with Open Voice, and that's been a huge help for us. And we'll touch on that digital transformation next. Yeah. Digital transformation, we continually innovate both our processes and our use of technology. HR has about 12 countywide software that we manage, pretty big lift for our team. We integrate that software in between our different, or the data in between our different software to make it reasonably seamless for employees. In 2025, one of the goals of our admin team, we talked about that strategic goal and planning, is doing a full review of our software analysis. I think there are some software that we're using that we're not really taking advantage of all the way. I'd like to see us take advantage of more of our software using all the pieces. So that's that optimization. I also don't think we're getting as great a utilization with some of our tools as I'd like to see. Especially, I think the standout for me are two: Absorb, which is our training tool, and Perform, which is our performance management. While the technology supports what we're hoping to achieve, we haven't worked on the behaviors of the employee, right? We haven't really spent some time engaging with our employees about how to use this technology to make their life easier. So looking at some change management with utilization, not specific to the software itself in terms of reconfiguring software or adding software, but in terms of making it more comfortable for employees and being an add value. We'll also do a cost evaluation. Generally speaking, what I see when we're negotiating contracts, the standard is about a 5% increment on an increase in software. And so continuing to work on the negotiation with our vendors and our providers. As you know, when we're working on the budget adjustments and the target, aside from our people costs in HR, software's next. And so we have a big lift in our software costs, and typically we see those escalators that make it a little different. So we'll work on some cost analysis and seeing if we can negotiate some lower costs for software. A focus area for us going in, software's great, but we're seeing a lot of application fatigue. Employees are like, where do I go for this? What app do I use? What do I open? Another app? You've got another link and another thing for me to do. So we want to address that and, continue to understand what that looks like. We do have a lot of stuff going, but nothing's done manual anymore. So if you're going to have a process, it's going to have an app.
So before we go on, I just want to offer a thought that we don't need to get into a conversation about, but maybe you'll take note of it if you think it's valuable. And that is, does any of this that you just described apply to us? So I can speak for myself personally. I'm probably not optimizing all the little things that are in my computer. And if there's things that I ought to be doing that might make my job easier or more effective, I'd like to know that. At the same time, I can totally relate to application fatigue, although I'm not even using, I don't even know, my granddaughter knows how to use the apps on my phone. She's 7, better than I do. So there's both sides of that, but something for you to think about. I don't want to get into a conversation, but I personally could use some help figuring out all the capacity of Zoom and, that sort of thing. That's all.
Yeah, I think that aligns exactly with what our focus area and our hope
And
is
it applies
across
to
the
us
board.
if we need it?
Yep.
Okay. I know it's hard, Mark, but we can move on.
No, it is very hard to let go of this topic.
Sorry.
It's okay. We can do it.
You can do it.
Well, I can just make one quick comment because I can't help myself. So,
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
the technology is the easy part, John. Commissioner Kafalis, that's the easy part. Picking the tools, setting them up, getting the workflows configured. The reinforcement of how to use those, making it a habit to do something differently and more efficiently is really the hard part. And so we have been investing more into our organizational change. That's the workforce change. That's the people side of it. And a lot of it, unfortunately, comes down to one-on-one conversations with people around where their pain points, where their worries, where their fears exist. Those things actually inhibit them from being able to adopt and appropriately use these tools. So I think what we're really trying to focus on is understanding where those major pain points are in efficiency or making your life easier, and trying to help use the tools appropriately to point to that. So that's one aspect. where HR and IT are trying to partner better. Sometimes we're really focused on it's easy for us, so why can't everyone else figure it out? HR brings us back to reality and tries to explain the workforce reality and the component of the people that work for us so we can do a better job. And so this is an area of improvement. I appreciate you bringing it up, and we'd love to talk more about it at some point.
Yeah.
One area that I think you're very familiar with, economic and policy influencers. Things like economic growth, inflation and interest rates, housing, labor laws and regulations, and social policies. We're seeing more and more legislation and regulation impacting the workforce and shorter times to make those changes. And so there's a lot more effort and influence on us, a lot more legislation that comes through that we haven't seen case law on. We don't know how it's going to be handled. We've got to, readjust our service delivery in terms of what we give to departments and what coaching, influence, or direction we give to managers. And so it has been, there seems to be more. There's more and more happening. So highlights from HR, I talked a little bit about, we do our annual legislative review, and Christine's actively involved. We work with county attorney, we work with your staff, so we'll continue that. In terms of the economic components, most of what we see is around the market and merit increases. They do include a review of inflation, but they don't recognize the cost of housing. One example I want to put in there is insurance recently. We're seeing a ton of people really hitting huge hikes on their homeowners insurance and their car insurance and all of those pieces. And, having a discussion about what is the employer's responsibility to recognize more of those changes. I'm going to continue working the compensation area. This year we had a great team put together a new data source. You heard a little bit about that. That's going to continue to build and grow, and we're super excited about having data at our fingertips and widely shared, so we'll keep building there. I do want to continue to explore, are we, on the right track with compensation? And so you'll see more information about that this fall in terms of a audit type review that I'd like to have done. And then we also do the living wage analysis, sustainable wage. We use MIT's calculator and watch that and then recommend adjustments as we go. The living wage has that minimum on it, but what we use that for is truly the minimum. And that does recognize housing and driving and insurance and childcare as applicable. So lots of different sources, not perfect. It seems to be an area, this economic and policy influences trend is an area we're chasing. We never seem to get quite ahead of that, and we're always coming up on it at the end.
I would like to recognize Bridget here because she's in the hot seat, and thank her for taking a regional leadership role in dealing with compensation. Our employment council company stopped doing our data analysis on compensation, and Bridget stepped up to the plate and said, I think we can do this ourselves. She had the idea. IT was able to pull together the system to make it work, and I think we have 30-some cities and counties that are providing data now. The great thing is once you have the core data, now we can start helping to analyze that and create better analytics around how people view compensation. And so we're really excited about 2025. Now we have this foundational information there. We can really grow our programs. And so thank you, Bridget, for that.
It's been fun. And lots of excitement from the other cities and counties. They have a committee that they are working on. I say they, we have about 8 members, and from different cities and counties that are working on the jobs and the metrics and the data and the processes. They meet monthly. So really great involvement on that going forward. So hopefully that'll be able to continue and support our public sector data needs.
I think that's really important because although the county is hosting, Bridget is able to say, this is not my tool, this is the collective tool of the folks across the state. And so that's what this 8-person group does, is decides what data do we collect and how frequently do we update it. Although we're hosting, I'm sure it's got to be hard for you not to want to get in there, but I know that you're not. I know that you're letting this group kind of come up
I
with
built the
best
base
practice.
and then I'm like, I'm out. Not my turn anymore. I did comp for a long time. It is my favorite part of my job, though, I will say. So I appreciate the support from our leadership to let me go and do some of those things outside of my normal.
Compensation's the favorite part of most people's job.
Well, once it goes in your paycheck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. AI-enabled tools, I think we are, I don't know that I want to say we're a little behind on the AI-enabled tools. There's a lot out there in HR where if you have good knowledge bases, content, which we do, that you can offer AI bots or interactive tools to your employees that would, look at our content and then answer questions for them. There's two areas that stand out the most for me. Our benefits content is very put together well, and so are our policies. So it's possible we could use those content banks to create a chat bot that would allow employees just to ask questions like you would in ChatGPT. A lot of organizations are doing that, and we just haven't left the customer service part yet. We've said we would prefer that you call our benefits team or you email us directly. And so we've had some hesitance. We don't want sensitive situations to be answered wrong, and we are not technology people, we are people. So I would say it's a little difficult for HR to lean over into that AI as a service component as opposed to using it as a resource, which we do internally. So again, we have analytics with Tableau. It's a focus area we all probably need to learn and get comfortable and see what opportunities there might be. There are some great tools that take someone's resume and push it into applicant tools, and we're a little behind there. We just don't have the comfort level we probably should with AI. Us
Neither
and
do
maybe the
I.
rest of the
No, I'm just
world,
kidding.
I don't know.
Thank you. I'm still trying to find my comfort level with AI. It kind of freaks me out sometimes. So I'm curious, we've had a session on, that you brought, Mark, on what's out there, what we should be concerned about. We've been, Commissioner Stevens and I were was it last year? We're out in Washington DC, and this was a big topic. It continues to be a big topic about making policies, and you get ahead of this, literally, which is, I don't know how you do that, but I'm curious how that progress is on developing the policy, and what does that look like, and how are we progressing so we make sure we're not well, it's going to be really hard not to react to it, but how can we kind of manage this for the best, but still make sure we're careful of all those cons that kind of sometimes keep me up at night?
Yeah, so the policy process is going through final internal review right now. It's getting a few edits after that, which was good. Especially our IT staff had good feedback on it. We're really focusing on the generative AI side of AI, which is something we all are dealing with personally. It's really what the ChatGPT opened up for the world. And I think what Bridget's talking about is something that's actually a little safer in my mind. It's taking our own content that we've already edited and cleaned, and it's very reliable, and putting it in a tool that makes it easier to access for people. And you don't have to find the phone number of the person who you can ask, right? You can just go to the tool. And what we're seeing actually is, we will see, and we're already seeing, this next generation of employees that's coming in are arriving expecting these things. It's also a competitive side of recruitment. It shows that we're a hip organization. You're not going to come here and be like in the dark ages. We have modern tools and technology to make work better and easier and faster for employees. So this topic actually is really complicated because you need it in order to allow employees to do their job better, faster, easier. You also have to show that you're not a backwards organization that isn't looking and being aware and being sensitive about those impacts. But at the same time, you don't want to go so fast that you're blind about the potential biases and risks associated with the technology. I think we're finding a pretty good balance. I think Bridget's right. We're a little bit behind right now, but I think, that's also because we are a little conservative in our organization. I think that's okay. That reflects all the leadership and wanting to do it correctly the first time. So you'll be seeing a lot more about this in the next month and a half, 2 months. You'll see a policy draft coming to the board for comment. And I think we'll have a nice set of guidelines and rules of the tools and capabilities that we feel are good for employees to start leveraging, because we have kind of a list of which ones work well. And then HR can be looking at ways to leverage some of these to make employee interactions better over the next year. So I think we've seen about, if I was going to estimate when I looked at a couple years ago versus today, there's a 600% increase in AI adoption in Larimer County employees in just about 18 months. So it was really small, and I would say the trend seems to be somewhat of an exponential curve right now. And so the reality is, commissioners, if we don't get real about this and stay ahead of it, it's going to happen anyways, and we're not going to have any control over it. And so we do need to move a little bit faster. I'm trying to get my teams to step up and get things done a little quicker. So you'll see some action in this in the next couple of months.
Hybrid flexibility, going from where we might be a little behind the curve, we're ahead of the curve, I think, on remote work. We get a lot of hits from other organizations looking at our website. So I'm going to move pretty quick here. We do have a remote work program, a full program. It has policy, it has training. Zoom was kind of our seal the deal, make this work, which was an integrated communication tool. We've been effectively using both voluntary and mandatory remote work for 4 years now. And so we really are doing great. We are seeing increased opportunities to utilize out-of-state workers. We're really struggling in HR keeping up on the out-of-state workers. And I say struggling only because we have to file all the tax and all of the unemployment and local taxes. And so it is a bigger lift for my team in terms of where we're at, also learning some of the employment laws, if they impact us, what that looks like, and just keeping track of employees, right? Making sure the communication is open. Where are they moving? Where are they going? What is happening? Most of the out-of-state remote work situations are evaluated critically. They don't come easy. You don't just get to go work out of remote. So it is a reasonably difficult process to get that approved and get everything set up, but we're getting better. We're learning how to do it more efficiently. Again, it is a very small portion. I think we have about, on average, 15 to 20 employees that work out of state, so not very many. And there are some states that we just say no to. We can't because of the taxing or the employment laws or some sort of benefits restriction. But my team did a great job. We went through all 50 states. We evaluated all of those pieces to determine whether it worked well for us. And employees and leaders have been really good and still just learning how to do that. So it will give us opportunity to expand our workforce in positions that meet that critical threshold. Next is flexibility fatigue. Over the last 4 years, we've gotten really flexible trying to meet employees' needs, whether it's remote work, whether it's schedule shifts, whether it's benefits. And we see a lot of that flexibility fatigue from our supervisors and managers. And I'll touch a little bit more on that later. And that's kind of a new trending term in HR is flexibility fatigue. Because once you start it, you end up going down that path, and it's really hard to pull that back. Remote work, that's why it ties in. It's one of the flexible options that we offer. Accommodations, we are seeing remote work being recommended as an accommodation, and we like to caution on that. Remote work isn't an accommodation. It is a program, and it's how we deliver our work. And so we're working a lot to educate managers that it in itself is not an accommodation, that there's a process and there's a review, and we want to support employees, but remote work is a how we deliver our services. And while it might be in certain situations, it shouldn't be the go-to. If there are concerns or issues, loop HR in. Consistency, we also see remote work used inconsistently across the county. There are many positions that could work remotely that still, because of either the direction or how an office keeps their culture, that they haven't been allowed to. So it creates some haves and have-nots and some back and forth. So focus area for me would be to continue good discussion at a higher level about what our initiatives might be around remote work. Likely that'll be with facilities, likely that'll be with our other department heads, and say, is there a need for this, or how do we explain it? So it's been a growing pain for sure.
Yeah, last week I spoke to the Classified Personnel Council at CSU because I used to be part of that council. And, when they were talking about some of the issues that they were trying to bring up, one of them was because a lot of people can't work remotely, if you're working in facilities or housing and dining in their work, for example. And they were wanting to advocate for more sick time because they felt like people who had the ability to work from home didn't have to take sick time when they had to take their kids to the doctor. They just worked that out through their schedule. And so do you see any of that sort of people concerned about unfairness or, not having that same ability to do some of that people who are working from home have?
Yeah, I think so. Even though I couldn't come in and present to you last week, I had the ability, was it 2 weeks ago?
You were
I don't
still
remember.
working.
I still worked, right? I just didn't want to share my sickness with you. Nobody else needed that. But I was not on my deathbed, not laying down. But if I was a facilities worker, I would have to use sick time because I couldn't do that. So I think that's one of those, flexibility fatigue, even issues, fairness, opportunity. And that's one of those consistency discussions that I think we need to have. Yep.
Thank you. I figured you were aware of that kind of thing, but it did kind of bring that up of, like, are there people that, it's the desk job versus the kind of service job.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and there's inherent conflict between the two. It's like, well, I can't stay home with my sick kid and still work.
But you can.
I have to take my sick day.
Yeah.
And you can do that. And that, so I don't know how you solve that problem, but
It would be a great discussion,
Yeah, it would be.
right? Experiences from other managers, supervisors, and leaders, for sure. All right, mental health. Yeah.
One thing on that, I think we took a really human-centric approach to how we try to look at this, but I think what's happening right now is a bit of a pendulum swing back to the needs of the organization more than the employee, and I think this is going to continue to oscillate a bit for a while until we figure this out. So there's certain things that are just more effective in person, actually quite a few things, honestly. There's certain things that you're actually better at doing heads down and focused work, maybe at your house because it's a more comfortable environment. So this is something I think as an organization we're going to be wrestling with for a while. These trends are important though. They do reduce facility space, which is very expensive. They reduce other technologies that maybe we need. And so I think it needs to be a balanced approach to how we do this because ultimately it is a cost savings to our residents if we do this well. So that's
Yeah.
all I'll say.
It's the, just because we can, should we? Right? Kind of discussion. And I think we're doing really good at remote work. I think we're leading in the hybrid area. I think we're now in that next level of maturity, and we're into our next set of growing pains. Mental health for employees, and I'm going to probably be able to move a little more quickly here. We've chatted about it quite a bit. At the clinic, we have 3 FTE dedicated to behavioral health counseling services. We just added another FTE as a health coach. Super excited about what that will look like. She is also a registered dietitian. And then we also have physical therapy at the clinic. So really working hard at the clinic to provide those services to employees. We have a couple rooms there for the massage and acupuncture. So service-wise, the clinic continues to be full. We continue to utilize those services. Super excited about what that looks like. Additional behavioral health, we have Teladoc and the Family Care Center. We also have 5 days at either North Range Behavioral Health or Summit Stone, which would be inpatient if an employee chose to go. So we want to make sure that employees have all the options in mental health there that we have from a benefits perspective. Trainings, we offer 1 to 2 a month on things like workplace stress, resilience, things that can help. Just recently, I adjusted the FTE and allocated duties in my office to add a half FTE to our health promotion and outreach. What we do with these positions is we look at the data in smaller sets of data. Mostly the smaller sets of data include a department or an office where we can go out and recommend customized wellness programs for these areas when we see risk factors or areas that might need to be addressed on those smaller groups. So super excited. We have Andrea. She's a 0.8 FTE right now. I added another about half FTE dedicated to those resources. So excited to dig in and work directly with some departments in their areas. Again, Americans with Disabilities Act, the mental health component is, I'm not going to say it's new, but it's newer in terms of working with that. Our generalists all continue to learn and grow in that area. We'll maintain our preventative focus. And then we have a threat assessment team here at the county. We're continuing to build that. It's been a few years. We're working on our charter. We're starting to get our feet under us about who does what, how we do it, what resources are available to us. And it's proved to be reasonably effective this last 6 months. We're able to act much quicker. It includes county attorney, risk, cyber, HR, and the sheriff's office. I did chat with Laura Walker a little bit. We'd love to add the new behavioral health director when she gets her feet under her. When we have issues that come up, we all group, discuss, talk about best strategies to support employees or departments going forward. We really are getting much better about what we do, what that looks like, and how we move forward. So exciting there.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. It's good to hear about all of this. So we just went through, as a county, a pretty robust week. We'll just use that word. We have a lot of departments who are doing above and beyond. This is part of their job, but it's still kind of extra. And even, I'm looking around this room, all of you are part of that effort, and we've had a lot going on trying to adjust and shift and keep kind of things rolling the best way we can. So is there something automatic that your teams already do to kind of come in and, you know, I don't know, even showing up with a box of cookies or therapy dogs or something, just to kind of, you know what I mean, not to say, hey, are you okay, but just, you know what I mean, just kind of gently, soft touch, hey, we see you, we care, you know what I'm saying? It's just, how do we support even everyone in this room? We've all been through a lot this week, and we're also trying to help take care of others. And I know that also they're taking care of others who need the support, that our residents have been through a lot. So I'm just curious, instead of waiting for folks to turn around and say, I need support, what are we doing just to kind of gently supporting us on these times of our
So
county?
one of the things, and this is not everyone, because a lot of employees are impacted, but one of the things after experience with a couple fires is, you know, NOCO alert's great. I put a layer of employee addresses over the top of it, and then we do direct outreach to employees that were on voluntary or mandatory evacuations. We like to give them a week or so because they don't even know what they need right now. Luckily, a lot have been able to move back in. We don't have final idea of what it looks like in the fire area. So we do direct outreach for the employees that have been evacuated, give priority options and services. Our team did go last week and put together what we call little care packages for employees that are working outside. You even think it's solid waste. You know, our landfill gate attendants kept the landfill open, and we're still getting ash and smoke and air quality. So we took a few things over that we thought would be helpful, eye drops and masks and gum or gel, right? Little things that we thought could help to say, hey, we see you. At a bigger level, usually that happens from the department head. We see a lot of department heads recognizing they know a little bit better about who's involved and who's not involved, who's volunteering and what that looks like. So Lorinda, any other thoughts? I know we've been through this a couple times.
We
so.
have. So a lot of departments think the sheriff's office have a built-in system, a built-in support system. So they tend to stand alone, although they do coordinate with HR if they need more resources. Emergency operations tends to not do great at taking care of themselves. And so when this settles down, that's a group we'll reach out to and make sure they're taking the time that they need to get away, they're not taking breaks now, making sure that that's done fairly. So it depends on their involvement in the disaster. Road and Bridge is another good one that was doing roadblocks and kind of managing those kind of things. They're very good at reaching out to HR. They have a tight connection with the wellness team. And if they need someone to come in, they have no hesitation at asking for that. Natural resources, the same. So there are cultures in departments that HR is really aware of, and they engage as they need to with those as they need help. It's very customized.
Thank you.
Yeah. I have 2 slides left. I am going to move a little bit more quickly because I'd love to touch on that last slide. It is one of my most important ones. So non-traditional candidates, we've spent a lot of time here. I do think we're doing much better. We review all our posting language for inclusive language. We've been doing this for 3 years. Our team's gotten really good at recognizing language. Job description updates, as we see new ones, we recognize, catch any minimum qualifications. A lot of times departments want what's ideal versus what's minimally necessary to do the job. And we've made a lot of progress with hiring managers, reminding them they can get the extras through screening and through meeting employees and through doing those things, but not here, not on the job description. All job descriptions have been gone through and reviewed and looked at that minimum level. E-skills testing. It's one of our favorite screening tools for posting. We focus on things like problem solving or basic math skills or whatever the skill is that's critical to do the job. We can deploy those tests as part of our recruitment, focusing more on the skill that we're most excited to see rather than necessarily what all of the, resume, the qualification, the experience look like. So we're not guessing, we're testing. You still can do specific postings for screening and advertising. It shouldn't say years, it just should say 8 a year. Bias training for different levels, it's also included in our bronze leadership. We have a Why Work for Larimer County page that has a bunch of employees in their statements about what it's like to work here and why they like working here. Focus area for us this next year is going to be employee resource groups. Employee resource groups, sometimes called affinity groups, give employees the opportunity to get together on terms that are common of each other to discuss what it's like for them in that common area. These can range from hobbies to race, ethnicity, religion. We've been able to establish a tool that will allow us to get those groups to be able to collaborate. So super excited. More to come on that. I don't have a lot yet, but we will share that back with you because I know it's an important area. Last slide. Working on our get you out of here at 3 minutes early so you can transition. Managerial skills. Our generalists are the biggest resource to managers and supervisors right now. So if you think about all these trends that we just talked about, our supervisors and managers are the boots on the ground that are executing all of the change, all of the technology. They see the employees in the mental health. They're working on the employees' mental or just well-being in general, not just mental health. They may be needing to provide the tools to do the work, awareness of AI, working on the general digital transformation that happens to them, change management. We have a lot of pressure, more pressure on managers and supervisors than we've seen before, right? It's not just about doing the tasks, the programs or activities assigned to them. If they are assigned people, what they're expected to watch and know has expanded greatly in the last 5 years and continues to expand. So if you think about any hesitation you have on how comfortable you are with the DEI initiatives, just maybe the language itself, our managers are expected to know that, right? Digital transformation. You're not comfortable with your apps or where to find things or where to look. The manager, supervisor, they're the first go-to for that employee, deploying those things. So the pressures we're putting on employees or on our managers and supervisors continue to increase based on even all these employment trends. So our generalists are the first line. They can help them. I want this to be a focus area for us. We do pick up a few basics in mandatory supervisory training. That's the legal compliance. That's the stuff you're used to. We have the bronze and silver leadership. We've had great response to that. I think we're almost at 700 employees through that bronze leadership program. Extremely excited how that's gone. We offer coaching. There are several of us that have gotten certified as internal coaches, but we also have external coaches. Professional coaching helps employees and managers work through things that are unique to them, that they would like the opportunity to look for resolution or to work through on their own. It does not have to be performance-based. It's got a little bit of stigma attached to it. Hopefully, we can move through that like we've gone through counseling. And then again, the threat assessment team. A lot of times, the managers and supervisors are that first concern with the employee, whether it's self-harm, whether it's treatment, whether it's an issue with a client, and they do not have the same resources that our threat assessment team does, and we ask that that gets hand off. So just kind of an awareness of how much we're putting on our managers and supervisors, and that there may be a consideration as we go to think less about, hey, a manager's got to spend this much of their time being a manager. We can't fill them all the way up with tasks and activities. We need them to be a manager. So being really conscious about that top push and bottom push with our managers. Thanks. We did it.
Well, I suspect I don't know if folks want to offer a 30-second closing comments. Commissioner Stevens, Commissioner Shattuck McNally. Yes?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I have to say, I found this work session and topic extremely beneficial. I'm thrilled to hear all these things. I love this presentation. I have lots of questions I'll be asking, and that just makes me extremely proud to hear how we're taking care of the people, because we're an organization of people helping people, and so we're trying to balance this but also support that. And I found this extremely beneficial and helpful, and I just can't thank you enough. I love
Great.
this. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would respectfully and specifically ask that we follow up on the couple of things that I brought up, please.
Would that be something your office will schedule with Bridget? Or
I don't know if it's a schedule. I
Okay.
can talk to Lorinda, but
Okay. We'd be
Yeah.
happy to do that. There's plenty of data we can follow up with.
yeah. And we should probably dig into this much more deeply. It's as Commissioner Shattuck McNally said, it's really sort of at the core of what we try to do
Yep.
around here.
And if there are any priorities that stand out, please let us know so that we can,
Well,
focus
I-
on those
yeah.
instead of the direction we're going also.
And I do want to provide specifics based on the open voice.
Sure. Absolutely.
Great, thank you then.
Thank you.
Well done, thanks for your work.
Okay.
We're adjourned at 11 a.m. We'll begin in a couple of minutes for the next session.